Good evening, everyone. Let me just get a microphone so I can hear. Is everyone good?
Yes.
Isn't it a beautiful moon? Mm-hmm. It's so soothing. So, on the way, I walked here, and it was gorgeous. May? By all means. Let's see. How long we got tangle? You can untangle the tangle. No, I think we'll just do some warming and waiting. Warming and waiting in a contemplative way.
Sasha wasn't able to make it tonight, so I'd just like to thank Dorothy for organising this event and welcome Brother Ben. And I believe I'll quickly hand over to Thea, who might want to say a word or two, and we can go from there.
Because I can't see. This is a tribute to Brother Ben. I met Brother Ben at the Buddhist Society New Year's Eve in 2022. We were both on the Buddhist path, and for me it was a meeting that elevated the ground before me and accelerated my understanding of the Buddhist principles. The respect I experienced in following the rules sparked an affinity for mankind and a sense of liberation and joy. Over the last few years, I have felt an abiding commitment to the teachings of the Buddha, and Brother Ben has been a steadfast guide, gently nudging the understandings which help me maintain the moment-to-moment, the purposeful way to live a liberated, meaningful life. And for this, Brother Ben, my gratitude is immeasurable. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
So I'd like you to all just sit silently, follow your breathing for a while. We are going to do 30 minutes of a talk, 30 to 40, and then 30 minutes guided meditation or restful as with your own practice, and then 30 minutes of question and answer. But just for the next 15 minutes, just to do some sort of calming, soothing, arriving, settling, and reflecting. Sensing. So just relax your body and sit with breathing. I do have a teeny little bit more setup to do as well. And there may be some people who are just on the way. So please follow your breathing. Be in the now. It's a beautiful moon. It's in Libra, those astrologies. And the love of beauty, the love of harmony, the love of art is all very involved in being stimulated, which is suitable for this talk. There's going to be a very big visual component. A little bit about me. Where to start? I started with Australia, arriving in the 80s, 84, and I started working for the Sydney Morning Herald as an illustrator and illustrating children's books. Since then, I've always had a deep love of beauty and love of art. And recently, this has been rekindled. And I've made a series of 10 talks over the last 2.5 months, while I've been very kindly supported here. So I've been very industrious and contemplative simultaneously. And I'd like to share the fruits of my labour. And my good friend Lorenz Good has been very kind to take a look at the work in advance and produce these notes so that you have takeaway as well, which sort of boil down the spine and the scaffold points. So you can look at those when you get home. There's no need to sort of like browse them now in the dim lights. Can't see anything anyway. You'll be getting your phones out and looking at it. And this is meant to be a combination of deep and relaxing, amusing and reflective. And this was also partly inspired by Ajahn Brahm, I was trained a lot in the Burmese and the Thai tradition since the 80s, and there's none of that in there. You don't get any jokes. It's very, very serious. And as soon as I saw him, I was going to say performing, but giving his talks, I was very impressed by how effective it was as well to give deep points that are very difficult to approach and liven up people's minds with humour and also help people reflect. So this is a very, very difficult skill, and very few people have achieved that. So I took a long time to look deep and hard over 10 years of his work, and then sort of reverse engineer it, sort of find out how is that working. And this is that. But he doesn't use visuals, so that's my prerogative. I was trained in animation and illustration. So I want to share that with you, particularly in the current age where we're able to sort of access a lot of new technology in order to produce that. Okay, so I'm just going to put another audio recorder thing so that I can share this later on. This is something that I will be doing, is sharing this via YouTube. So if you see anything, oh, I wanted to see that again, it was very fast. It's a fast-moving, fast-paced experience. So you'll be able to do that as you wish. So you can relax and just enjoy. So a little bit more background. I'll start really. I started after illustrating. I went up to Thailand, and through various things, did 3 years of ordination, where there was about 9,000 or so interviews. I was assistant to teacher, and all the people who came along were Westerners. So I also started to realize the difference between Asian culture, Eastern culture, and the Western mind. And this is why, again, I admire what Ajahn Brahm has done, which has managed to do this very difficult bridge and to be able to sort of decrypt and decode the deep Dharma and its housings, its cultural housings, like Burmese, Thai, and so on, and make it good, easy on the ear and easy on the heart and the mind as well. This particular talk takes the difficult subject of suffering, which everybody faces in multiple different ways. And I had an experience of this yesterday. Was it the day before yesterday? When I went out right to sort of Yanchep. Just thought I'd ride the trains and just people watch. It's one of my favorite things to do. And getting back that kind of hitchhiking spirit, which I grew up with, a very, very sort of adventurous explorer spirit. I used to get hitchhiked down into Europe, the Greek islands and back from England. And I went way up to Yanchep and right along the beaches. I went like 5 kilometers out and just watching the waves, and you see all these signs of the rip currents. So I was reminded very much of something that happened 2.5 years back. Younger brother of mine drowned, and he was up he'd come and settled in Australia, and he was up in Derby. Had 2 daughters. He'd bought a boat. He'd got into sort of having his own business, air conditioning, everything going really well. Had his own boat and went out to an estuary and tried to navigate up to catch crabs, fish and crabs. Boat stuck on a sandbank, flipped over, capsized. They were sitting on there, and then big waves come in and knocked him in. And he got sucked away, got into a rip current. The 2 girls survived. So, big tragedy. So, 2 days ago, I was up in Yanchep, and I was thinking all about it. And mentally, I was kind of having this bit of a dialogue with my brother about, what did you do, what it was like, how did it happen, what went wrong, what did you learn from it, and kind of reviewing our life path as well. as growing up. We'd had all sorts of adventures getting stuck up cliffs as kids on holidays and all the usual things. And I caught the train back, and then I was thinking to go right to the other end of the line, Amanda, or somewhere way up the other end of one of the lines. Just again, people watching and relaxing. It's like a meditation. In COVID, I got an 8-hour video of a train window going like this. I used to sit in my room and just like, yeah, it's just like makes you feel like you're moving. So I just got into that bike. You've got the huge Rio Tinto building, and there's that sort of busy square with people going from every different way. I stood there, I was just people watching, and my map was telling me to go one street, and I said, no, I feel like going down this street here. And after a while I went, yep, and I just went down there, and this sort of 16-year-old girl with a lot of mascara on and the usual sort of 16-year-old outfit went by, and she goes, hi, and I was like, that's okay, I'm a monk. Like, and I think you got the wrong guy. And I went past and I looked back and she was still looking at me, and I went, hi. So I said, do I know you? She goes, yes, Bethany. And I was like, it's my niece. And like the chances, yeah? You've got a country of 25 million people. And there it was, like, I was like, seriously? She's come up to me, I hardly recognize her. It's been like, 4 years or something since I've seen her. Or I saw her just after the accident, after the death and tragic thing. She also wasn't ready to talk about it at that time. And now, so she said, I said, where are you going? I'm going to Yanchep. So I said, I've just come from there. I know this way. Let's ride the train up there. So, and we talked all the way. She's ready now to sort of talk about it. And she's half indigenous as well. Her mum's Aboriginal. So, and she's getting into Aboriginal art. So tomorrow I'm taking her to the Western Australia Museum to go look all around the exhibitions, which are fantastic. I really, really appreciate those. So yeah, lot of new cycles and sort of new exciting things that are occurring. On Monday, I'm returning back to Malaysia, to Penang, and I'll be giving these talks there. And I'll be very interested to hear your questions and see your responses to this type of talk as well. Good. So if everyone's comfortable and ready, I think we can go ahead. So you'll be able to watch on there, and you'll just be able to follow along as I guide you through it. And then we will actually have the guided meditation afterwards when it gets to the end. So this is talk number 18 of a series, actually. So if you want to, I will also be able to provide those others. The noble truth of surfing. A poor man, angered by hunger and sickness in the streets below a great tower, he decided to climb it and ask the rich for help. A wise man warned him, none return unchanged. A guardian said, dress like them, or they won't listen. He agreed. Another said, harden your heart, or you won't survive this climb. He agreed. A third said, stop seeing everything as unfair. It's much more complicated. He agreed. At the top, he spoke calmly, but he no longer felt the suffering. I forget why I came, but I'm very hungry, he said, and stayed to feast. Suffering invites deeper questions. What's its cause? Is it personal failure, social structure, or a universal human condition? In work and life, we ask whether achievement ends suffering or merely rearranges it, whether control is possible, and what genuine freedom actually means. In the Philippines, often a family cannot afford hospital bills. I would often discuss their problem with the welfare department of the hospital, and they were expected to repay the bill over time. But they had to write and sign something called a promissory note, where their property was held as collateral until the debt was repaid. A promissory note. One of the families told me they had given the hospital a "I promise, sorry" note, not a promissory note. Suffering is an inevitable part of the human condition, often acting as a catalyst for growth, compassion, and resilience. It is frequently distinguished from physical pain by the mental resistance or clinging and attachment that causes deeper, optional distress. The handful of salt story. A man was angry about life's unfairness. Buddha asked him to put salt in a cup of water and drink it. Nyah, too salty. Then Buddha asked him, put the same amount of salt into a large lake and drink. Not salty. The lesson, expand your mind, the lake. So life's troubles, the salt, don't overpower you. Siddhartha, before becoming Buddha, saw an old man, a sick man, and a dead body, realizing that suffering, salt, is inevitable for everyone, which drove him to seek liberation of expanding his mind. There are some tactics to help tackle life's distresses. When facing suffering, begin with a daily reflection practice. Set aside 5 to 10 minutes to ask, what caused stress today? What was in my control? What was not in my control? Next, break overwhelming problems into small intentional steps. Focus on one clear action rather than the whole burden. Finally, use mindful breathing throughout the day. Slow, steady breaths. Anchor the body. Calm reactivity. And create space between pain and response, allowing wiser choices to emerge gradually. Even in suffering, notice small supports, breath, kindness, shelter, learning, steady work. Gratitude steadies the heart without denying pain, reminding that goodness coexists alongside difficulty. Pause. Observe suffering directly. Notice thoughts, tension, reactions, urges to escape. Awareness softens struggle, creates space for wiser, kinder response. Many people find it all too dark and depressing. So I've been considering reinstating the bikini order of nuns. They teach the noble truths of surfing, the causes of surfing, cessation of surfing, and the path to the beach. Once, a farmer's donkey fell into a deep well. The farmer tried to rescue him, but the donkey was too heavy and the well too deep. Deciding the donkey was old and the well needed filling anyway, he asked his neighbours to shovel dirt into it. The donkey brayed in despair, then grew quiet. With each shovel of dirt thrown down, he shook it off and stepped up. Load after load fell. Step by step, he rose, until at last he climbed out and trotted away. Suffering can be reimagined as raw material. Instead of resisting it, I ask, what is shaping it, revealing, or inviting me to create differently? Suffering becomes a doorway on the spiritual path. It exposes attachment, humbles ambition, and redirects paths towards compassion, service, and deeper inner freedom. To make it all more positive, here are some freshly revised precepts. 1, I undertake the precept to refrain from killing conversation, like asking if you're vegetarian or not. 2, I undertake the precept to refrain from stealing the limelight and the attention. 3, I undertake the precept not to abuse sensual pleasures, such as putting chili sauce and anchovies on pizza, and also putting out candies such as Turkish Delight in talcum powder for guests. 4thly, I undertake the precept to refrain from smug speech, such as incomprehensible ancient languages that only I know. And 5thly, I undertake the precept to refrain from intoxicating self-righteousness and moralizing people who drink 3-in-1 coffee. I should lighten things up a bit. The mechanism of avoidable suffering is that we ourselves drive it with interpretations and feed it with attention and unmindfulness. These sufferings are unnecessary. Changes in mind can deeply affect our own experience. Even a very challenging, so-called negative event. A wealthy father's son left home and wandered for years in poverty, convinced he was worthless. The father searched tirelessly and eventually found him begging in a distant city, not knowing the palace nearby belonged to his own father. When guards approached, the frightened son fled. So the father sent servants dressed plainly to offer him humble work, cleaning toilets. Feeling the job suited his low self-worth, the son accepted. The father, disguised, worked beside him and gradually encouraged and promoted him. On his deathbed, he revealed the truth and left him the entire estate. When suffering arises, pause and name it gently. This is pain. Notice where it sits in the body. Breathe steadily into that area without trying to fix it. Reflect on impermanence. This feeling is changing. Ask, what is being clung to right now? Loosen the grip slightly. Practice compassion by remembering others experience similar struggles. Take one wholesome action, a kind word, a helpful task, a moment of generosity. Return daily to ethical living, meditation, and wise reflection to steadily reduce the root of suffering. Impermanence is not the cause of our suffering, but we cannot get happiness from hollowness. The truth of suffering is not a doomsday prediction, an inevitable destiny. It alerts us to the fact that we are not being aware of what we really are, or the way we really are, could be. But so I was born in Luton, England. Luton, or as some airlines call it, London. It was only recently that I found out the truth. Luton is not an easy place. I recently discovered that I am Luton intolerant. Since the Bodhisattva studied under a Brahmin who knew a spell that made jewels rain from the sky, he was captured by bandits. The teacher was warned not to use it. Impatient, he cast the spell anyway. Treasure fell from the sky. Greed followed. Rival thieves slaughtered one another after the riches. At last, only two remained. One killed the other one, and then celebrated, died from poisoned porridge. When the Bodhisattva returned, he found two corpses and treasure scattered all around. He reflected that, selfish gain breeds ruin, and he used the wealth for generosity instead. When you think about destiny and fate, do you feel passive or responsible? Where might belief in it was meant to be excuse greed or harmful choices? Notice how craving shapes outcomes. Does suffering arise from fate or from attachment, intention, and actions? 3 dinosaurs found a magic lamp. They rubbed it, and a dino genie appeared. 3 wishes, 1 each, it said. Okay. First dinosaur. He asked for a big, juicy piece of meat. Instantly, the largest steak he'd ever seen appeared. Schlop. Wow. The second, not to be outdone, wished for a shower of meat. Down it rained in slabs. Slop, 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 slop. The third, determined to outdo them both, shouted, I want a meteor shower. Meteor shower. Oops. The rest, as I say, is extinction history. Reflecting on the truths of suffering is not morbid, rather is a way to stop life being lived on autopilot and to live more intentionally, fully in the present. Understanding suffering's mechanisms is key to opening your mind and heart. Remove beliefs blocking joy. Sometimes, actually, strange connections occur. We have to discover our life purpose to unlock them. Working in London as a stagehand, I was offered work at the Millennium Dome, preparing for the year 2000 opening. I was working with a fun person called Jeff Blake. Jeff told me he had a family connection directly back to William Blake, who was his great-great-great-grandfather or something, the mystic, artist and poet. I really enjoyed his company. Another artist had composed the music for the opening show, one of my heroes, Peter Gabriel. The sound echoed around me and Jeff all day long for months, their rehearsals. One day, I looked on the Dome's website. It said that Peter Gabriel had written this music inspired by two things. One, the DNA chromosome links of families and generations through eras. Two, the poetry and work of William Blake. Every day, take a pause and consider how unpredictable many connections you experience were. Those people's lives. Was there a higher connection, a higher truth at play? Every day, note that devas and bodhisattvas are always guiding us, assisting us, listening to us. Every day, take time to listen and connect to your higher purpose. Every day, practice letting go. Letting go of too much fear-based reasoning, not enough divine intuition. Every day, respect the triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, teachers and parents. Reflect, like in the Dhammapada, verse 197. Indeed, we live very happily, not hating anyone, among those who hate. Among people who hate, we live without hating anyone. Not striving for sensual pleasures, among those who strive for them. We live without striving. A student is on one side of a raging river. There are no bridges. He has no boat. He shouts out to the master on the opposite bank, "Master, how do I get to the other side?" The master shouts back, "You are already on the other side." I once was lost in blazing sun among tall, thorny bushes in Sri Lanka. There was one tall, dead tree, and I hoped for a view from it. Winding closer, a small animal rushed off. I thought it was a pig. I kept going. Then a large elephant, alarmed, crashed away into the bushes. I reached the tree. Flattened, dry grass circled it. A baby elephant's resting place. I'd walked straight into that baby elephant and mother's home. Suffering was not in the jungle. It's probably in my blindness and restlessness, maybe my ambition. Where does suffering truly arise? In changing conditions? or in our insistence they stay the same, with so many losses and uncertainties? What steadies the heart? Perhaps refuge lies in practicing Dharma honesty and walking with a Sangha that helps us suffer with more wisdom. I was retelling the elephant nest incident while I was in Colombo city, Sri Lanka, at a family gathering. When I got to the part about the mother elephant, the rather large lady of the house had begun to get to stand up, looking somewhat upset. I'd continued until I got to the part about, there I was in the living space of the mother elephant, and with a huff and a trumpet, the lady stomped into the centre of the room, believing I was actually referring to her. Her husband had to calm her down and reassure her. What is happening is this. Among nesting, protective beings, we intrude. We seek freedom. The pull between solitary exploration of the unknown and the comfort of the known creates tension. We must exist somewhere, yet existence strains against itself, seeking light, coolness, and safety in a hot, thorny wilderness. At that same location in Sri Lanka, the kuti I stayed at was a 20-minute walk through hot sand tracks to the ocean. Pathways wove through bushes and trees, and it was easy to get lost. To help, I took some yellow electrical tape and put markers on key branches there and back. One day, the markers were all gone. At the ocean, there was a pile of broken branches with yellow tape on them. One of the elephants hadn't liked my idea at all. To walk these tracks, the sun was fiercely hot. I covered my head with my folded robe for shade, seeing only the track just in front of my feet. Step, step, step. I nearly stepped on a wild elephant sleeping on the path. There's something humbling about realizing that 5 tons of wilderness does not recognize your little improvements. Try to pause daily for 5 quiet minutes. Notice where you are marking paths, adding tape to branches, expecting the wilderness to cooperate. Walk gently. Look ahead, but not so far you forget the ground beneath you. Take 3 slow breaths before acting. Ask, is this needed, or am I forcing change? When it's confusing, don't redesign the forest. Take 1 careful step on the track in front of you. Respect the tuskers and the elders. Others have walked here for generations. Suffering grows in haste and assumption. It softens in awareness, patience, and steady, deliberate steps. How often do we wander like the lost son, convinced we are small, unaware of what already surrounds us? How often do we mark our paths, assuming the ground is empty and ours to claim? Perhaps suffering begins in not seeing where we truly stand. As a teenager, I sneaked into tunnels beneath a school. Deep below was a room with a naughty smoking table and an old black and white photo on it. The tradition of boys was to sign the back. I looked closer at the photo. Wait a minute, 1957, school play. There in the back row of the photo, it was my dad. We went to the same school. It was true. Suffering is like a tightening knot. You pull harder and you make it worse. We can ignore it and let it happen, or we can loosen it slightly, strand by strand. Suffering is like a fire. We can feed it, we can fear it, or we can understand what gives it fuel. Suffering is like carrying a heavy bowl of water. The tighter we grip, the more it spills. The steadier the hand, the calmer the surface. Suffering is quicksand. Stillness steadies. Struggling sinks. Gentle, steady movements bring release. Of course, as monks, we get showered with food. There's a great danger of politely agreeing to it all. Most of my beloved, kind-hearted Theravada teachers were very round and overweight. That's how they got their name, the Thera Tubbies. Suffering is like being caught in a current. The more we thrash, the more exhausted we become. The more we fight the water, the stronger it feels. Grip too tightly, and balance is lost. Panic feeds the force against us. But when we stop struggling, float, and move with understanding, the current loses its power. What seemed overpowering was intensified by resistance. How does it work? Notice how our behavior has been affecting the suffering. There are patterns behind it. It's one of the ways suffering increases suffering. Then it maintains itself by bringing up fueling thoughts and ideas to support it. A furnace with shovels and stacks of fuel. Look closely. It is going round in circles. We can face suffering, one suffering at a time. We like to ignore suffering's existence. It is coming soon. The more we wake up and accept suffering's truths, less escape, less avoiding, the better. So we get real. By accepting reality, we can learn to solve problems. By avoiding problems, by giving up, we only get weak and overcome by events when they arrive. We can master the ocean of samsara by experience through mindfully learning to be in life joyfully. Remember this noble truth. Yes, all life has avoidable suffering, but that the art of life is surfing. The noble truth of surfing. Let go, let it be, don't attach to it. Suffering comes in waves. We like to ignore suffering's existence. It is coming soon. The more we wake up and accept suffering's truth, less escape, less avoiding, the better. Get real. By confronting the waves of reality, we can learn to ride them. By scrambling sideways, we crash. By falling asleep on the beach, we only get weak and tumbled by events when they roll in endlessly. Because things change, growth is possible. Because people shift, relationships stay alive. Because nothing fully satisfies, we are freed from endless chasing. Suffering grows by clinging to control and permanence. When we expect movement instead of stability, life becomes workable, not threatening. So I'd like to end this talk with wishing you well, my gratitude and appreciation for your kind attention. May many of you attain the peace of Nirvana and be free from all avoidable suffering and harm. May you all be peaceful, happy, safe, and well. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. So now we can, being refreshed, being inspired, being relaxed. 30 minutes of sitting. I will provide a little bit of guidance for those who wish it. There'll be very, very many experienced people who have their own practice. Go ahead. There's an open forum for practice techniques and methods. Make yourself comfortable. Everybody's just been sitting for half an hour. Some of you aren't floor sitters and you might have aching knees and ankles. There's no problem with that. Just move when you need to move. Suffering. There you go. Oh, great. Yeah, very relaxing. Botox lips and influencers. Okay, I'll just switch this off. We don't need that for me. So it's achieved its purpose. Thank you. So for those of you who wish, begin just by being here rather than concentrating. Concentrating can over-focus the mind. Just simply listen, feel the clothes on your skin, be in the present moment. Listen to the sounds between the sounds. And just be aware if you are tensing yourself up, like to expect for something, and just let that go. Feel in your shoulders and your neck and your jaw, forehead. Let your body sink. By paying very curious, interested attention. You already have enough, you already know enough. There's been no one going nowhere, achieving nothing, living in the knowledge that you already have everything. Feel the contentment that all you want to do is breathe. And you're with people who also just want to be here now. Just appreciate the rareness of all this, of a beautiful congregation of people being good company. You can relax your defenses, nothing to prove, nothing to get. Nothing to achieve. already have that Buddha nature, you already have that harmony. Dwell in the contentment. And what you may notice is that you notice your breathing. And let your mind, it doesn't need to be forced to stay in one place. Just like a bumblebee on a flower, you can move around, petal to petal. You soften your head, soften your muscles, relax. Soften your spine. Let your dignity rise calmly through the body, just being here. It's great nobility. Being fully human. Just awareness of awareness. Sense your existence, sense being with compassion. All of us gone through great hurdles to be here right now. Many challenges in the past, many wounds, many difficulties, many broken dreams, many different things. But here we are, refreshed in the moonlit night, in good company. Heirs to our choices. Everyone chose to come to a meeting like this. That's a wonderful inheritance already. Intelligent choice. Wise choice. That bodes so well for your futures. Be grateful for that, what you've become, the being that you've become, to choose, make these choices. It's rare, the Buddha said, how many times different metaphors, how rare that is. Whole ocean and turtle surfaces, and it just manages to put its head through one yolk. That's how rare yolk on an egg. It's so rare to come into human life amongst all the billions and trillions of stars, systems out there. In human life, very lucky to meet each other. Who knows also how many lifetimes we've met each other before. All these reflections are also to just deepen your being here now. Not in the past, not in the future, not in options and choices. No, here. Fully appreciate your existing right here now. Thoughts come, just let them pass like clouds through a moonlit night sky, without judging. Feel your body, feel how the breathing is affecting your body, without making this or that happen. Just notice. Those tiny little hairs inside your nose, they're just like those wild grasses at the beaches, being brushed by the natural wind. Nothing to control, nothing to do. Just receive the experience with great curiosity. Sand on the beach, when you zoom right down into it, is actually millions and trillions and billions of sort of skeletons, of shellfish. But just think how that you may have had that many skeletons. This is just one that we have right now. Don't be attached to it. And that can allow a kind of release of consciousness. You are not your body. You are the listening mind right now. It's not, you and the body are not the same thing. It's very liberating. You can drop huge, great clusters of behaviors and just let them go. You can reorient your whole existence when you get to this neutral space and not on autopilot. There's a phrase, how do you stop a teardrop from drying up? You throw it back in the ocean. We can dissolve our individuality through this. Not taking our individuality very personally. It's me, it's mine, it's I. No self, no I. No me, no mine. Everybody experiencing temperature. Everybody experiencing a bit of movement. Can dissolve that ego, that separation. There's tension or hardness in the body, sponginess in the body. It's universal. We're all experiencing these elements. Temporarily combined into this shape and then dissolving off. Be aware of the breathing, be aware of the abdomen, you can be aware of the nose. Be aware of all impermanent. No need to control it. Not trying to get anything out of that. Just observing. That's the path to liberation. Our eyes, they're impacted all day long. Millions and millions of images and objects. That's suffering. Sounds, pleasant and unpleasant. Perceptions keep changing, keep tricking us, keep promising things. Very difficult to live as a human. But we can learn from it. We're swimming in pleasure and everything, we can't really learn. You want to be looking back at your life with meaning and with lessons learned, growth happen. Good karma done as well. So really try to take an investigative approach to your awareness of your body. See it? Can you see the flux happening? Can you see it transitioning from itchiness to movement, sponginess to warmth, hardness to softness? All that flux, always happening. Billions of atoms regenerating. We're always dying. So we don't have a death. We are constantly dying and being born. Huge, great cloud of it. There's nothing permanent that we can find. Really look at where you're holding, where your fear is. And let go, just dissolve. Breathe through. If you feel resistance, and really awaken and reawaken and stimulate that sense of love of the human family. It's very important, that trust, joy of being among humanity. Every person is a great mystery, a great delight. It's one of the reasons we shouldn't get too attached into small relationships. Metta, unconditional love. Beings of all shapes and sizes to have unconditional, positive regard for all. Not judging. Really look at people with curiosity and openness and observe your suspicion or your categorizing of them. Put that aside and go further. Or observe when we've been ourselves doing that. Warm bond of humans in this very fragmented times of fear and separation and isolation. It's a place where wisdom and faith become fused in certainty, because these are truths that cannot be questions. They're not outside yourself. Really, you can see them within yourself. You can verify them. You don't have to have blind belief. In a way, try to see your experiences around your body as something like islands in the sea. And you're in an inky black darkness swimming out, and you're just observing them passing by. Even excruciating pain can be observed like that. You observe it with disregard and just curiosity and just neutral equanimity. Hi, I recognize you. But I'm not going to go and land, and I'm not going to. You're just swimming out into inky darkness and you're not coming back. Imagine that kind of mentality. Try to going beyond our limitations. Rather than seeing moments as a continuity as well. It's happening to a me. See how you're just made up of a flux of lots of different, this experience and that experience. Try to see it as not happening to a someone. Just be transparent, nobody home. Allow more space and less glue between the experiences. It's very refreshing to be no one, to be invisible, to be transparent. Everything we thought we were has passed away already. Everything we cling to as self causes suffering in some way. Start to turn your mind outwards towards all the people around you in the quiet neighborhood, neighbors and people. People who are easy to feel sympathy with, your best friends, your closest people. This is metta, extending love. And also feeling the connection. Everyone shares many, many connections. We all share the connection of suffering. This brings us together and prevents us being selfish. So this brings up compassion and overcoming our pride to ask for help. So feel for humans, feel for life around you, and start with easy people. Extend your heart towards people who are easy for you, people who really get you, best friends. Just warm, so extend that warmth and gratitude for them being in your life. Really hold a very pure, deep wish. And extend that love out towards other people. Other groups. Start expanding out your unconditional love towards others. And spread it. And also directionally, behind and above, east, west, north, south, different directions. Near and far. So imagine just distance is no object. People on the other side of the planet, people in far continents. Extend out your love, extend out your unconditional love, extend your kindness and gratitude. Like a silent message, like a sending a message but with no words, just that beautiful vibration, that beautiful signal, that beautiful wavelength. Send now also towards all the beings who fly in the air and the beings in the water as well. Just be aware of that all beings have this receptive quality. They can receive those signals. All the creatures of different kinds on the land, send out your message of peace, gratitude, appreciation to all those different beings. All the different kinds, different categories, different types, different type of life forms. Really expand your imagination, expand your awareness, sharing your benefits, sharing your awakening. And this can also get us out of our self-absorbed consciousness. And then lower beings, like lower humans. Humans are very difficult to love sometimes because of their selfishness. So consciously make an effort for people who are quite difficult, who you complain about, or people who irritate you, and extend that a little bit further. Open up that little bit more forgiveness, that little bit more acceptance. People who've been really riling you. A little bit more, give them the benefit of the doubt. Inspired by people who you know who can do that. Okay. Let's bring this meditation to an end. I'm really grateful for this privilege. have sat with you, and for you to have helped share my work here. And I hope that many people will find freedom from suffering and avoidable suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let me chant a blessing before we go. You can share this blessing with past beings who have passed into various realms. And those of you who have parents who've passed on, or relatives and other beings, and you can just generally share your merits out with the universe, and whoever wishes to receive can, so it doesn't have to focus. Yata varivaha pura paripurenti sagarang evameva dinang petanang pakapati ichitang patitang tumam kipameva samijatu sabe purantu sankapa janto panarasoyata mani jyotirasoyata sabityo vivachandu sabaroko vinasatu mate pavatwantarayo Sukhidiga yugo bhava abhivadana sinisa nityang vata pachayino chataro dhamma vadanti ayu vano sukhang palang bhavatu sapamangalang rakantu sapadevata sababuddhanupavena sada suti bhavantu te Bhavatu sapamangalang rakantu sapandevata sapadammanupavena sada suti bhavantu te Bhavatu sapamangalang rakantu sapandevata sapasanganu bhavena sada suti bhavantu te sadhu sadhu sadhu. They will be happy. So if we have a little bit of light, maybe of the physical kind, I'll just turn there. Excuse me. That's as low as it will go. Anyone who would like to share any observations, questions, or anything really? This is an open point. We only have one mic, so.
So thank you, Brother Ben. I really enjoyed that talk, and especially the visuals reflecting your stories. That really, made it more enjoyable. I love the story about the donkey. I've heard it before, but tonight I'm like, yeah, I really got to, with the shoveling and just surrendering and just getting that you will grow from it. Yeah. And nothing is static. We're always evolving and changing, and even you're saying you're not your body, and yeah, I really like that. But I just wanted to ask you about the life after. What does the Buddha say? Does he believe in reincarnation, or do you go to other planets, or what does the Buddha say?
So thank you for your reflections, Tonina. So there was a lot to unpack in that. Yeah, the donkey story. When I told it to Lorenz, he said, "Oh yes, very Jungian." Which was like, right, that psychological distress can be seen as a vehicle. A curse can become a blessing. This is really the way that just perception of things which may be bad, look bad, actually no. And the more that actually we're very capable of evolving. In fact, we would only evolve through challenge. Otherwise, we would still be like floating around in the sea. Right? Is that we grow through challenges. The work I did in the Philippines was like when somebody came with cancer, I was like, don't stay away. And I just thought, no, like the stories about facing the waves is like, go for it. And you, by picking up, in that case, compassionate aid, by picking up the challenge, you grow enormously. And it's actually much easier than you know, the fear makes things much more frightening. You know, but when you don't, when you put that aside and you act with creativity, and then the courage comes, and you suddenly find that you're 10 times the person that you thought you were. When I first arrived, I was doing portraits at the Circular Quay, and it was going nowhere. Like lucky if I made $2. And I went, no, you're going to go to the top, you know, places and just walk in and say, there you go, I can draw. And they were like, okay, yeah, there you go. They gave me the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald. I was like amazed. So yeah, the donkey, you know, like things that appear to be pressing you down actually can be a way, a channel to release. But if you're afraid of it, or if you turn it, you know, into a self-pity or a victim, you know, an ego, some of those haters, I am always me, you know, you pile it on yourself and you don't step up on it. And also it was interesting that it was just like one little scattering dust and you would just not step up on it. But if you stayed there, go, oh no, it would have built up. So it's like looking at things like in meditation. They're very small, but when you look at them like a huge thing, all my life, it's always been, no, then it's huge, because your life's huge and you think you are your body. And if you see your body as flux, then you don't have any history. You don't have any me, and you don't have any mind, and you don't have any backstory either. You can't stand there. These are some of the things that the Buddha talked about. Is about I mean, the Buddha never required anyone to believe in afterlife. It's like believing that there's the planet, you know, Pluto, or, you know, planet Uranus or Jupiter. It's only when you have a telescope you can verify it. But then you have to buy a telescope, and they're expensive. And it's the same with future and past lives. If you really want to devote a lot of time, months, developing the capacity to recall your own past lives, or perceive something about other people's, you're going to have to invest a lot of time. And then there's no guarantee. Some people find that very easy and some people find it very difficult. And particularly the more skeptical, you know. But the Buddha said to people who came to him and said, we're not sure if that's really true or not. He said, well, whether it's true or not, do good things just in case it's true. And then you're going to have, because what I'm saying is if you do good things, you will find good results happening. And that's the reason why some people come in with a pretty easy life. Things come to them is because they gave things. And that's a good reason, you know. Sometimes if you feel and say, life's, but you reflect, hold on, no, did I do good things? Actually, I did. You know, I gave this and I gave that and I gave that other. There were good things. Or if you can't remember anything, maybe go and do some good things. So the Buddha was really about the meditations were a lot to just get, you know, dissolve a sense of an ego. So it's, you know, he wasn't encouraging people to believe in an eternal soul, but he didn't also quibble about it. He says, no point in like, you know, quibbling about the belief in you've got an eternal soul or not. He says, but look in yourself, can you find anything in this flux which is continually going on? And you find, he says, if you look in the way that I encourage you to look, you'll see that no, and then you're more likely to just not get reborn again. Because he wasn't just sort of saying like Edgar Casey or Helena Blavatsky or some people, like, you know, they were going, wow, there's this phenomena about rebirths. You know, if you access their Akashic records and ask those devas to give you information about various people or your own past lives, then it's a phenomena, but so what? That just means you're going to get another life. And you're going to go through many of these trials all again. Or you may get reborn in a very distant galaxy. And the Buddha was very aware of and making people aware of the enormity of the galaxy, not only, not only the one we have, but the nature of it expanding and contracting. So he said that when he realized, and he looked back and he saw 5 epochs, he said it just keeps going on like that. He said we need to get out of this. We're in a phenomena. So even if we're there, if you mean aliens or UFOs, or if you extraterrestrial beings, they haven't necessarily transcended suffering. Even if the place that you go to and they live there and they're all dwelling in this really long lifetimes, which is what he said happens. He says that because some of those realms of light that they dwell in, they don't get aware of dukkha, they don't get aware of suffering, so they don't make effort. Whereas we do, if you really realize the nature of your body. I just watched my mother turn into a kind of crisp packet, crumple and die. She was from a very vibrant person. It was like, I think I'm getting a bit of Alzheimer's, and her shaking it. To her arms really collapsed. She could hardly lift, all teeth were broken and everything. It was very pitiful. And the more that the Buddha was saying, don't avoid that, use that as a catalyst to realize the brevity of this short life. It's gone, it's like, don't mess around. A lot of people just messing around. So also when I say life is surfing, it's not like, it's not encouragement to go and just have a fun, good time boy life, or just party and stuff. That's how we can waste the time. Many of us are, even to be living in this society, you have a very good karma already, and clean, well managed, good air, plentiful food, abundant medicines, plenty of money around. This is like the first story about the Philippines and the man. I spent 10 years in the Philippines. I know you all know that, but I was in 5 years amongst a very deep poverty place. It was more poverty than I'd ever seen before, and it really was a big slap in the face for me. And that helped me to get out of being a sort of privileged Westerner, and really wake up to the suffering there, because we have very good free medical stuff in the UK. And they'd had none. These people were forced to pay, and they were forced to become sick, and they barely could look past sundown most of the time. And most of them were lucky if they had 2 coins to rub together. And they were the most unemployable. They were very, very old, or several children and a sick father, very hard to employ. Sickness everywhere. There's 2,000, 3,000 people in one suburb, and I'd go around every morning, 25 families, and they were all offered food. It was incredible, and I'm still in contact with that community. So I invested time with this question of rebirth as a teacher, because if you don't have any concept of that, your whole philosophy. I was walking from Fremantle Station, just walking along, and there was a guy staggering along and there was all those pubs. You got the touristy area, and they got loads of pubs. And there was a guy, who's a right huge, hulking, great big character, his sweaty back, and he kept sort of stopping to talk to the trees, and then talk to a wall, and then talk to no one, and then plod on. I was like, whoa, I'd better cross the road, as though he had a few jars, and instantly categorizing him and judging him like this. And then I walked right up to where they do the dog walkers beach, and it was a place up there. And I happened to ask someone where the washroom was, and they instantly directed me. And I looked, and there was that guy, and this was like 2 hours later. He'd just been walking in a straight line. I think I got a bus. I got a bus, and he walked all the way up there. And I said, "Look at that guy." And she said, "Yes, his name's Francis." And I was like, "Yeah, how did you know that?" And she told me all about him. And she said, "Yeah, he's got an aneurysm or something." And I felt really ashamed. She told me all about him, and she's frequently walked along, and she was with him, and she was a retiree counsellor for addict people, alcoholics, and so on. And it was clear, and she was saying, "I'm just killing time, really." And when we talked about the alcoholic stuff, she immediately went into the thing that society does that to people. So this is also very different with what the Buddha taught about karma, where with his philosophy he does acknowledge conditioning, but he doesn't treat you as a blank slate. tabula rasa idea. He doesn't treat it like that you just come in as a blank CD and then society does it to you. And then if you get a bad parents and bad situation, you can just blame society. He doesn't. He says that you come in with a whole history of things. So that changes the way that you view people's situations and their ability and power to change it also. I don't know if I made the connections between those sort of like nodes there, a bit abstract, but it's very important. I just noticed, I didn't say anything to her, but I did notice that she was taking on this, at the end of all her life, all working, all those alcoholics and everything, that she was just like, oh, society just, she had a very depressing sort of view about it, because it's like, oh, that's what happens, is you get damaged, society damages you, and then you damage and you damage and you damage. There's no kind of optimism or freedom. There's no liberation out of that view. So it's very, very empowering. Similarly with the Filipinos, I really had to sort of try to, do something there. I worked and lived in Egypt, where people are very much like inshallah. It's like the will of God. But you know very well, right? You've got Middle Eastern origins and stuff. Was that kind of thing, like, I'll meet you at 2:00 tomorrow, inshallah. If God wills it, I'll meet you tomorrow. But then this powerlessness. There are many good things that happen out of many of those views and teachings that aren't happening in the West. No question. They won't do the haram, won't do crime. No, because God's watching. But in the same way, it removes a lot of the karmic aspect of intention. Of that you're responsible and you will get the good or the bad from your actions.
Do you believe we choose lessons in this lifetime? Do you believe that you've come into this life and you've chosen your parents? There are lessons?
When it comes to the holiday times, some people have got money in the bank and they've booked holidays. Some people come in holiday and they're still a mess. And they're still pushing around a thing, and they're slapping their wife. Some people are more in control of their lives, and some people are out of control. So similarly, when people come into lives, some people have clarity of conscience, and they're making very careful choices about where and who to live with. I do. I see that makes sense. I mean, that it's not. I wouldn't say just belief. I think that's something that just is kind of common sense. In some ways, and some people literally are, they're out of control. They die out of control. So it kind of makes sense that they will, they may be gambling or they might be addicted or violent, or just enraged, like a lot of people. I saw Palestinian kids tried to stone me one time when I was walking out. I walked across Israel to the Dead Sea one time, and they were just like throwing. And I just looked at them, and they were like 6 years old. There was hatred in their eyes. So, I'm not judging on the situation. I don't want to go into that. I'm just saying that I was thinking, wow, they've got almost no chance to get out of that mindset. And similarly with kids all across the world that I've seen in America. In Singapore, I counseled a very elderly man who wanted to suicide. He wanted to jump out his window, and that people called me in, and he'd been wanting to talk to a Buddhist monk. And I said to him, where do you want to be reborn after you've suicided? And he was like, what? I said, no, where do you want to be? You're not an arahant. You're not fully enlightened. So you're going to get reborn. So let's discuss where, But let's talk about the country first of all. And he was like, because he just hadn't gone there. He'd gone like, this body's like an old broken television. Let's just smash it. He hadn't really thought beyond that. And that really, it pulled him. And I was saying to him, like, do you want to be born in a rich family, poor family, or no family? Do you want to be like, that could be pretty good. I said, where's the best? Why are you asking for a Buddhist monk? What's so good about Buddhism? He says, no, in my life, he was a merchant sailor and he went all over the place, but there were sometimes he went into Buddhist temples and it was so peaceful and he saw the life was there. And I said, yeah, I've stayed in those places. So which one do you want to, let's say you die tomorrow, where let's talk about it, like booking a holiday, And I said, look, I've been in a lot of temples where you get orphans and they get dropped off. Do you want to be one of those? Because then you wouldn't have any family, you wouldn't have any parents to squabble about. You'd just be like an orphan. there was one of the reasons I reordained, like I ordained for 3 years, 1986 to 1989. Then for 23 years, I went back to the world. I thought it was a good idea. Young and stupid. I came back in 2010. One of the reasons I did it, I was really like thinking about this question, like, is the rebirth stuff really real? How? But now we had the internet. Back in the 80s, there was nothing. It was just books and rumours and chatting with monks. So I looked on the internet, and there was this one story that really did it for me, and it was where there was a recording of a boy who was about 4, and he was chanting, like I chanted, that was about 6 minutes long or something. He was chanting something that was about an hour and a half long. He was about 4, and it's called the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. It's where, after the Buddha was enlightened, he went up, psychically went to all the different heavenly realms, broadcasting, like, and they were broadcasting, wow, like a Buddha's become enlightened, you know, and all the devas and all the different beings on those levels were repeating this report. So it's that one. He did it word perfect, but he didn't just do it word perfect. It was the intonation, and both of his parents were not religious at all. His father was a drinker and his mum wasn't into religion at all. But his auntie was somewhat religious, and she heard him and she said, you should record him. And I said, you record him, it's just noisy, you know. And he would sit up in his bed, you know, like with full lotus and doing it. So they recorded it and they took it into the monks. And the monks listened to it. And I've heard it as well, and they go like, nobody chants like that. And they asked him to come in, and this is a little boy, you know. And he said, they said, how are you doing that? And he said, I was part of a posse of monks who walked from India to Sri Lanka, and we had memorized the Tripitaka, and the Tripitaka is 11 times longer than the Bible. It's a lot. And that was the way it was transmitted. And the way it's transmitted is you couldn't do it on one. You'd have to have 3 monks. So they would sit together and they would all recite simultaneously until one of them glitched. And they would go, woo, and they would rewind and they go, do that again. And the other, whoever the majority got it right, they corrected the other one. So they would do that recitation. So he was part of these like recitation monks. I've met monks who can do this. In fact, my teacher's teacher is in the Guinness Book of Records because he could not only memorize. His name is Mingun Sayadaw. Mingun is an area, is a place, it's a city. Sayadaw means master, like a really super master. Mingun Sayadaw, and the Guinness Book of Records went to him. They recorded, and he said, like, well, name me anywhere in the books, you know, just like name, you know, do 3 or 4 lines, and I'll just continue and I'll do the rest. That's how they tested him, and they just went through place after place after place, and he could do it perfectly. So he said that the way he did it took him many lifetimes to memorize it, and that was his kind of job as a monk. And then he died. He went into an Akasa realm, not an Akasa realm, a Basara realm. It's a realm of light, but they're still fairly cohesive and conscious, those beings, and they can observe what happens on the earth. So there was a 6th council, in Myanmar. This was in the 50s, 1953 or something. And then so he got reborn to be ready for that. So when they did that council meeting, he sat on one side and someone called Mahasi Sayadaw sat on the other one, and Mahasi Sayadaw had the books all there, and he just tested him, and it went on for like 7 days or something, so that they tested 2 things, that the current edition is correct according to his memory, because it's from way back when, and vice versa, that he can remember. So that's a little bit of a digression. How did we get there? What was it? Oh, I was talking about the little boy. Yeah, so he's fully grown now, and he's become like the spiritual director of it's one of the big ones in the States, like Barre, Massachusetts, I think it is. IMS, I think it's IMS. And he has his own center called Nirodha Center. But he could remember that life and many other ones that he talked about. So he was recalling that life kind of thing. But like I say, he can recall some interim lives. He said, "Oh, those were bad lives." Like he went and had some hanky panky in the middle, and then I came back again. Oh, sorry, I forgot what I was doing. I got sidetracked. If you open yourself to enough of those kind of things, that was like I said, when I heard that whole thing. That one and another one about an American boy who got shot. He said he remembered vividly getting shot down by the Japanese. He was taking off of an aircraft carrier during the Second World War. And neither of his parents actually believed in reincarnation, particularly his father. So he sat him down and he said, "Oh yeah, okay then." You know, and his mum was really into it, and she was taking him to a hypnotherapist because he was waking up in the night screaming and shouting and trying to like break out of a cockpit sort of thing. And it was repeated all these nights. So she took him to a hypnotherapist who got him to start talking, and she said, "This is what he's saying." And his pictures were all drawings of that. So his father said, "Well, where were you, and what was the name of the boat?" And he can name the boat. He says the Natoma Bay, and he checked it. Yep, there was a real aircraft carrier, and he could get in touch with the living members of the crew, and they said, and it turned out there was only one person who got shot down, and he'd always signed his name James. Well, he was christened James, and he signed that. But the one person who got shot down was called James, but that guy James had a sister who's still alive, so they Skyped with her and put them chatting, and she said, "Oh, James," he goes, "do you like this picture?" And she pulled up a picture, and he goes, "Yeah, that's a picture Dad did for you. Where's the one he did for me?" And she was like, jumped up, and she goes, "Yeah, there was another one under the bed that the Dad had done pictures for two of them." She said, "Nobody knew about that. That's not fakeable kind of thing." Many more. Yeah, if you look about that story of either of those two, those things are. So those are all just also report, of the screen. Then we're limited in our precepts about too much. But if you get me in a good mood, I'll start telling a thing or two that must get me more in trouble. But the reason for that precept, by the way, is that there are people who in the past sort of go around bragging the things that they don't really have, just in order to attract fame and fortune and stuff. That's the reason the Buddha was keen on that. But he himself would do it all the time. I'm not saying about hypocrisy. I'm just saying that that was one of the powers of the Buddha, was to be able to see like anybody. He just had to turn his mind to it, and he could just know not only a person's past life, but also kind of their death path. He did that on several occasions. It's kind of weird because it sort of implies a sort of bit of predestiny. I don't think it is that. I think he could do something else. But then he said, like, you're just not going to be able to understand by thinking about it a Buddha's mind. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a Buddha. That was one question. So to give you an idea. Well, that's helpful. Anyone else like to doesn't have to be questions as well. It can just be like, sharing stuff.
So just going back to, do you do the nirvana also?
Do I do the nirvana? It's like a dance.
Do you come back until you get it right, and then you go to nirvana? Is that one of the?
So the question was, do you keep coming back until you attain nirvana? Well, yeah. I mean, nirvana means not burning. And rebirth means to burn. It's like as long as you're on that, as long as there's fuel, like if you I know very elderly people and they're just dying to go to Vienna and Italy and Switzerland, but they haven't yet. The desire is all still there. There's a lot of things that they still haven't done. It's burning away inside them, and yet time is limited. Not only that, there might be something unexpected like an earthquake or an asteroid or whatever. Is like that will not go away. Desires like that don't just go. So unless you consciously, extinguish all of those, until you're just content and clear and calm in the present moment, then that's something like a nirvanic process of extinguishing desires, extinguishing egos which fuel the fires, and extinguishing hatreds and resentments and aversions. Those keep fueling the fuel like that. So it's not about sort of, all right, I'll come back and see if I can get it this time. No, you haven't got any choice. Like, I've got a lot of friends who died, but no question, they would have been born. Hopefully, they would just been reborn as a human, because that's one of the good ones. There are some rough rebirths, and there's some very beautiful rebirths as well. But even rebirth in a heavenly plane is not nirvana. So nirvana is this extinction, like the Buddha said, he won't be reborn again. And the same with all the arahants. And there were many, many fully enlightened beings who followed his path, and they were like, I'm done. There's no more seeds in the barn. I'm out. I have no desire to anything, you know. So then they say that once they get to that level, they have to become monks, you know, and they have to become monks. It's the only life that suits that, because most people are so busy running around planning another property and another 3 holidays and a career upgrade and scaling and something. And they still have too many desires that even if you give them time, you say, oh, I want to learn Chinese and I want to learn to cook, you know, this and, you know, like there are many, many things that they're still grasping for that they haven't realized yet, but they're in the pocket, you know, they're kind of like, I just, you know, can't wait to learn piano and can't wait to, you know, all these different desires. But having no desires, in a certain way, the path leads to, they say there are 4 levels, 4 stages. And they say it doesn't happen in one time anyway. It's a gradual thing, like the very first time, many major chunks of karma, like the desire to have a family, will probably get much, much weakened. Many people, like the Filipinos I was with, they had no two ways about that. Boom, boom, boom. They were going to have, you know, there was always on the cards the idea of that type of thing. So, and that's much the same with most culture. That's kind of normal. And so transcending that and questioning it, like, is this all there is to life? That's one of the sort of equanimities and the mindfulness is like, wait a minute, you know, like if we keep churning out all these people, they're all going to die and they're all going to grieve and they're all going to lose and they're all going to miss and they're all going to, you know, and that yet they're still going to keep breeding and, you know, and so on. So definitely the Buddha advocated that, although it's not an easy path. And the Buddha realized, you know, he didn't want to teach it first. Once he realized it, he said, people don't want to know this. They want to get a faster chariot. You know, they want to invade the next kingdom. They want to learn, you know, they want to learn martial arts. They don't want to learn this stuff. No, not at all. And then he was persuaded. Deva, heavenly beings, came and said, no, we've seen the Buddhas of the past, and there were many more. Like in my lineage, we talk about 28 previous Buddhas, and that was just this epoch. That they, what was it saying? That I lost my thread. No, the 28 Buddhas. I was thinking about something else. Yes, go on, sorry.
You've spoken a lot about arahats and Buddhas, but I noticed that in your slideshow, which was excellent, by the way, you referred to bodhisattvas. And so I could see a real Mahayana thread coming through, and I sort of was a bit confused. I thought, oh, are you Theravada or are you Mahayana? Or, you know, there was that thread as well. So I was sort of interested in, what's your view on bodhisattvas?
Good one. Before I became a Buddhist monk, I was a Robbie Sattva, as a joke. No, I'm actually a fusion. I consider myself a fusion. That was because I was originally solid Theravada, Vipassana and just insight and that's it. But I met so many selfish people who had clearly practiced a great deal. You know, I remember coming off of a 60-day, 16-hour retreat, and I saw one of the guys who had been on it, and he just sort of opened his newspaper next to someone else who was sitting next to the lamb, just sort of shoved him out the way. You know? And I was just thinking, like, there's something wrong. There's something, you know, often there's something missing. And then I've also had a big exposure to the Taiwanese organization, Tzu Chi Foundation. And the Tzu Chi Foundation have 10 million members. They follow the Bodhisattva path. And Tzu Chi means compassionate relief. So they inspired me. I was really like thinking, like, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life, just all, you know, walking, sitting, rising, falling, and just only the sort of Burmese style. And I suddenly realized what they were doing involved ecological awareness, recycling, poverty relief, medical, and modern, and they were very much a reformist thing. And this really just resonated with something. I think also my Britishness. With British people, when you talk about Elizabeth Fry, William Wilberforce, people who are sort of like abolishing slavery, people who are improving prisons, people are improving hospitals, it really resonates. We were brought up like that, you know, they just had all that. So when I saw, wow, there are Buddhists who are doing that as well, it kind of created a bridge that I could really like get very interested about. But I also noticed that the Taiwanese, that with their Mahayana stuff, they lacked the insight, the psychological precision, and the depth that the Theravada Buddhist had. So I tried to incorporate both of them. And I went to the Philippines to try to do that as well. So I was basically doing a Theravada practice while doing a Mahayana Bodhisattva practice. But just to clarify for those who haven't heard about this. So before the Buddha became enlightened, when he became enlightened, he's considered there, he's a Buddha. All of the lifetimes and anyway, the sort of times that he was somebody before that, he was considered a bodhisattva, which is a being who is on their way to enlightenment. They're not fully enlightened. So in many of those stories, he's clearly not that all that yet. He's very advanced. Like the one with the jewels coming down, that was the bodhisattva one when he was a young apprentice and he was with a teacher and all of that stuff happened. But there he learned to sort of get the jewels and give them for relief rather than seeing what the pirates and the bandits were doing, which was just turning them corrupt. So that's the sort of moral of that story, and many of the bodhisattva stories. Even when he was a sort of animal, you know, in some of his past lives, and he was learning to evolve, learning to psychologically and spiritually become awakened. Some people think that, you know, they see this as well. They see this sort of like me. I'm going to enlighten. I'm just going to stay in my room and I'm not going to touch anyone or talk to anyone and just do that. They do see that as too selfish. They see it as a selfish thing. So they decide, I'm going to suspend, my attainment of that because I can just see so much suffering around me. And they believe that that's worth it, you know, to delay doing that. So, which is, you know, both have good points in my opinion. I also noticed when I went to help, but I understand why people go to the room, you know, because then you're involved in material. You know, you try moving among the extreme poverty people and try to say, I'm going to teach you meditation. And we want school supplies for our kids. You know, my kids got, you know, his teeth are all rotting and they don't necessarily want that stuff, you know, they don't want that, or the culture takes a long time, like Burmese, to, you know, absorb that in like that. So yeah, the body. Some people also, they have to deliberately kind of break a bodhisattva. So I'm going to stop helping everyone else because it's exhausting me. Like the lady was helping, or her life, you know, alcoholics as well. And there's the problem of who you're going to help. Often that gets worse. You know, you get toxic charity. Actually, you're exhausting yourself, but actually you're actually not really helping them. You're creating a kind of dependency. So all these things the Buddha weighed up when he created the Sangha, when he taught it the Dharma, which is actually sometimes it's just our lack of appreciation of it or lack of awareness of it, is that when you introduce the Triple Gem Sangha into a place, it works perfectly. You get all these people they can ordain. The way that they learn and the way that the aristocrats and all that, they come down to sort of ground level and they just walk barefoot with a bowl. They learn humility, and the people can offer, which is very, very much better to learn to offer than it is to learn to receive aid because of that dependency problem. It's very, very perfect when you see it working well, but not everyone understands it, like in China when they destroyed it with Maoism and everything. not everyone can always appreciate it, and it's not always that easy to see it in an uncorrupted state. You know, some countries now, and it's kind of a bit messy. Too many ceremonies, too many rituals, too many glittering palatial temples.
There's certainly a lot of something I've become aware of. This cultural Buddhism is such a something I've become aware of in the last few years and immersed myself in is the aspect of cultural Buddhism. So I did a lot of practices in Tibetan Buddhism with the Burmese and with the Bhutanese, and they sort of have this amazing ability to like understand the teachings, but only to a certain depth. And if some of them are lucky enough to take the opportunity to really practice, wow, they really go far. But most of them are sort of now chasing the money in the West, and it's interesting because it only goes to a certain depth. And I saw this in Thailand as well. I went to stay there as a nun, and then I thought, well, hang that, because they didn't really have a very nice attitude about women. And it's really hard to be a woman in Thailand and study Theravada and be really devoted, because then you end up having to wash the dishes for the monks. Well, you know, they're not working as hard as you are, but you don't get the opportunity because you're a woman. And I found that really difficult. But then it's this understanding of cultural Buddhism, and it doesn't really matter. Like, I've met people in the Muslim faith that are like almost true bodhisattvas, and just because they're not Buddhist, they think, wow, you must have been, you know, you must have been born into this, like, to do work here. Like, I've just found it quite interesting. But I found the cultural Buddhism comment that you made about the Filipinos interesting, because they've got, like, they're born into this, you think, oh, they're so lucky to be born into a Buddhist world, because I wasn't, but I was really attracted to it. But then it's almost like they're born with it. But unless you really have that yearning inside, you're not going to find it. I don't know. It's quite interesting for me, spirituality generally. Anyway, that's
I fully respect everything you said there. Anyone else like to? Yes, please. Okay, you come forward a little bit because it's the limit of the microphone. You have to very come here because it's. Okay. So.
Thank you for the talk. I was just wondering why you decided to use surfing as the sort of topic of the slideshow. Do you surf? Are you like allowed to surf as a monk?
No, it's simply a play on words, and the the topic of suffering. As soon as you mention it, people go, "Oh, I'm busy tonight. I won't be going to that one." You know, it's a topic that people find quite difficult. So it's simply this to lighten things up a bit. But the idea of when I stayed in Israel, there's a word called galgal, means a wheel. Sorry, it means a wave, but it actually means a wheel. So it's something like the samsara cycle, like that. And I like this metaphor that, you know, waves coming and all the things. When I was walking in Yanchep, these signs, and they said, watch out for rip currents and all the different things, the dangers that they pointed out. I thought, this is really good metaphor. These are really good metaphors. The way that just the lifeguards and I can't remember all of them. I photograph on the signs. I want to use it in a future talk. But it was just like, you know, the idea of, hey, surfing, great, fun. Because people do that with meditation. Yeah, I'm going to go in, and suddenly they get rolled like when you get on a surfboard and you just get like churned and smashed into the thing. That happens with meditation often. You know, people go in with a very flippant, sort of frivolous attitude or a really greedy attitude or something. You've got to really respect the ocean it will kill you, you know. And there are predators and there are all sorts of things out there, all sorts of different dangers that you need to approach it very carefully and very wisely. They say like meditation without study is dangerous, and study without meditation is a waste of time, because you really need the experience and like that. So no, the play on words is just the Buddha has a thing called the noble truth of suffering. That's where it comes from. And I could not surf. I used to skateboard, but I'm pretty sure looking at I went out there and looked at the surfers. The other thing was where I sat near the surfers waiting for a bus. Those guys are rough. They weren't friendly at all. They were, we doing over there. You know, they're not. I think they can be a bit glamorized. You know, like, you know what I mean? It looks very exciting and very interesting, and I like the idea of it. But actually, like, if you used up all your life doing that, and some of it take a lot of investment of time and energy, you could also just burn up good years of your life when you could be doing something more useful. So it's a kind of karmic indulgence in a way. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think I'm a natural pleasure lover. Like, I was a musician and a skateboarder and all those things. So all those kind of things do appeal. But that's why it's good to go see, you know, the wake up stuff. Like I said, when I went to the Philippines, there was also ocean out there. But, you know, you look at the ocean, then you turn around and go, oh God, here it comes. And I'm like, oh no. You know, and there's handicapped children here dying of starvation, and there's just 1,000 problems, you know. But, you know, if you walk around there and just open yourself up and say, yeah, I'll try and help, you're going to grow, rather than just fun, which is kind of that's kind of our upbringing. We didn't even think twice, just go and have fun, sledging and skiing, do you know, motorbikes or cars as fast as you can go, and music. We didn't really think anything about it. The purpose of life was just pleasure. That was it. There wasn't any question about it. So this was, you know, really woke me up when I met the first monks and I was listening to them. I was just overpowered by how sincere, and, you know, they were working for nothing, basically. They're unwaged, you know, and they were working tirelessly to help Westerners as well. And I was like, wow. That's when I joined. I was like, I'll help you. I really admire what they were doing. I thought about becoming a vet when I was young. I really hurt for seeing abandoned animals, dogs, you know, just left to wander the streets. So that, you know, compassion-driven. Compassion is really something that can give you your life purpose and meaning. But great skill in surfing, balance, and not saying, but it's like dancing. You know, it's kind of like also a lot of balance and, you know, a lot of fear of rejection and, you know, overcoming of fears and things. So it's a balance. Anyone else? I'd like to... Thanks for your comment as well about that as well. Thank you very much. It's good to have some feedback on the work and see how it's gone down. Yeah. No, not all of it. There was some that had Yoshida. Hiroshi Yoshida is a Japanese woodbook artist. So I interspersed my stuff with that. But I always showed it a credit, so you can tell the difference. Many of them are from the suttas, not all. Basically, I noticed that there was a pattern with Ajahn Brahm's talk. Like, that really puzzled me for years. I was like, how's he doing this? He keeps coming out with a new thing and a new thing and a new thing and a new thing and a new thing. I was like, how's he doing that? So I looked, and I found a kind of pattern. I used AI as well to do that, but I found there was a kind of pattern. Story, reflection, humour, insight, and then story, tactic, you know, to go home with, reflection, humour. So there's like that. So I thought, well, I'll try that. You know, instead, because normally, like, I put in talks that I'd done for it to analyse, and it said, yes, insight. And I was like, no wonder, maybe it's getting a bit boggy for people, that they need a bit of refreshment before. People don't mind going in deep, but they need to come up for a fresh air, for a bit of a breather, and then you can go deep again. And to also have a scaffold, a spine for the talk. I always used to find that difficult. People say, you're giving a talk, what's the topic? And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't even know, could not get my head right. No, I just gonna. So this was a way of doing them. And then the visual stuff as well. I tried doing visual stuff and it didn't go well. This is a whole new approach on it. It's like doing it as an illustrator and as an animator and the caricaturist and things, you know. Yeah, what they call it, was it Kentucky KFC or something like that? Kids Fun Club, I think it was KFC. Mm. Yeah, me too. But I don't know. It's difficult. Like I said, when I saw Ajahn Brahm for ages, I wasn't sure what to make of it. And then I knew I was coming here, and I'm very friendly with him. I'll often have lunch with him, and we'll just share. And he's like, "Go ahead, come here and do a talk." But he's surrounded by a lot of fortress of committees, and they're the ones who it's difficult to persuade. Plus, when I first came here, I was very much out of the Burmese mode, and all I wanted to do was do sort of very graphic animated diagrams of what they taught. And all of that group and the BSWA and everything, they just went, no. They came and looked at it, no. They just went, we don't do it, because they're used to Ajahn Brahm's pattern and his views and stuff. So it might be different now. But first of all, this is the first time I've shown this stuff in Australia. So I've only just made it, I spent 2.5 months making this, 10 of them. This is number 18 of this. I've got 13 of them now like that, this style. That's true.
Did you actually say something about the elephant and she thought?
Yeah, I didn't know what she was like, what are you trying to say? And I was like, no, it's just on the coast. And and she was like, woo! So, you really triggered our buttons. I'm not talking about you. No, I didn't realise, So that was a true story, yeah. Yeah, if anyone's dry and thanks everyone for coming, by the way. Really appreciate it. Very welcome. Very welcome. Great. Thank you so much for saying it. Really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. Very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Hey there. Good. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Monks said, I'm not sure where they were, but they had huge hernias.
Oh,
were they?
Those ones?
Yeah.
In the thing. That was just a joke.
So they didn't have those?
No. That was a cartoon. I created that as a cartoon.
Oh, they look real, like they had their stomachs protruding.
No, they were just fat.
Ah.
They were bulbous.
Okay.
Two or three of my teachers are very bulbous. Because they're sitting all day, so the stomach gets really relaxed. And they get offered tons of food, and that just happens. Unless you really try otherwise and maybe walk a lot.
It looked very, like, they're about to have a heart attack or something.
Well, they're not very healthy on that side.
Yeah.
On the spiritual and on the enlightened, on the attaining, we don't never only.
The two go in hand.
Yeah, you would, right? So, I've rebelled against it, but then that's a different kind of rebellion, I think there's a trap of becoming too institutionalized and too sedate. What's the word? Sedentary, right? Yeah. There is a risk of that. So no, I consciously make an effort now to go to do a lot of walking and not because there's a danger. Like, the cars arrive, so you just waddle over there You sit down and you get up in the morning. Oh, breakfast is all here. There's a huge breakfast, and you just turn into a Henry VIII kind of, waddling thing. Buddha used to walk a lot. No problem. Thank you. No, not at all. My pleasure.
Did any help with anything in here?
I think I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to take a few hours and just break it all down.
A few hours.
Well, I had to. I always thought there was a screen here, and so I've had to make this screen. I talked to Sasha, and she said, "No." And I was either going to have to project it on there in case you got this thing in the middle.
Yeah.
So I said, "No, let's go and get some lycra, and we'll stretch it." And so basically, I cobbled this together. No. Yeah, no. I'm used to doing kind of rigging and that stuff. And I think it's part of my meditation as well to sort of, go to. But thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah, did you enjoy the talk?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.